So we will hear what he has to say. First, though, the saga of James Harden and the Rockets continues. Harden did not participate in the Rockets' first practice of the season yesterday. Rockets coach Stephen Silas said Harden was not at practice because of the NBA's COVID-19 protocols. Harden did not return for a scheduled solo workout Sunday evening either, but told Rockets management he's going to report soon, whatever that is, a source told our Tim McMahon. Harden was all over Instagram this weekend, attending rapper Lil Baby's birthday party in Atlanta without wearing a face mask. Players were actually supposed to quarantine at home this week, other than testing at team facilities, individual workouts, and grocery shopping. I don't know if there were any groceries at Lil Baby's birthday party. James Harden's sister also took to IG to defend her brother. It was a photo of them together with the caption, "His pain is my pain. We got the same pain." So, what do the Rockets have to say about all of this? Here is Coach Stephen Silas earlier today when asked about Harden. The question was, when will James be back and how big of a setback is this? Take a listen.
Yeah, as far as timetable, there is no timetable as far as I know. And it is a setback. You know, you want your best player to be here, and there is a short window, as you've alluded to. As I said yesterday, we're working as if this is the 6th to the 23rd. So there is some time, but, you know, it is a setback. I mean, I have to be honest and understand that this is a setback, not having one of the best players in the NBA here. But I'm working with the guys who are here, and we're working hard, and we're doing a good job.
Well, shouts to him, new coach being put in a difficult position and being candid and honest. Definitely the way to go, Coach, because people know if you're not telling the truth. What do you think it is like for him to be starting now and dealing with all of this?
Well, it's difficult. You know, you want your best player in camp. You want your best player there to lead and set examples and things like that. And right now they don't have that. And when you see them on Instagram having a good time, kind of going against the COVID protocols, I mean, seems like James is sending a pretty strong message back to Houston about where he's at. And as the coach, you just got to keep pushing forward. You got to prepare your team. You know, you're going to have a no excuse attitude like I know Coach Silas has, and you do the best you can with what you have.
Well, that's definitely the playbook, but it is easier said than done. And for the whole Rockets organization, Fizz, can they afford to let this drag out through the season? Because they told our Tim McMahon earlier last month, we can afford to get uncomfortable. We're willing to get uncomfortable. We're not going to take less for James in a trade than we think that he is worth to set our organization up for the future. But are they going to be able to actually pull that off?
That's going to be a tough line to walk because, you know, they're going to be getting a lot of pressure from him and his people. And if he's not performing at the level that we're used to seeing from James Harden because he's got a lot going on internally, you know, people are going to look at that and see that as an opportunity to wait him out. And if Houston waits too long, they might get stuck in a position where they lose. So it's really walking a fine line on when to do it and when to pull the trigger. But also, you got to keep James Harden in a place where he still plays for you and performs for you and gives your team a chance.
Absolutely. And I now see we are joined by our senior insider, Ramona Shelburne. Lovely to have you here. Can you piggyback on what Fizz was saying? Just how long can the Rockets afford to wait this out?
Well, Rach, I mean, you were the one who covered Jimmy Butler in Minnesota a couple years ago.
Yep.
And I think we all thought that they had some time. Okay?
They did not, Ramona. They did not have time.
Uncomfortable. No. I seem to remember watching you interviewing him right as things were about to blow up there. And, you know, like if a player wants to make the team uncomfortable, if he wants to be disruptive, then they can. And I think the one thing that got me about James's post over the weekend is, you know, this isn't Lou Williams at the strip club in Atlanta, at Magic City, where somebody posted a photo of him and then everybody said, oh, wait, Lou Williams was at Magic City?
Right.
This was James posting it himself.
Right.
He wanted people to know he was out with Little Baby with the Prada bag and $100,000. Like, I mean, I don't know how much more blunt you can be, but that's a message that's sent. Now, I also covered a media day. Oh man, it feels like a million years ago. I think it was 2007 though, when Kobe Bryant had demanded a trade with the Lakers, and we were all standing out there waiting to see if he'd show up, and none of his teammates knew if he'd show up, but he eventually showed up and did what he was supposed to do, said what he was supposed to say. The Lakers never traded him, and they went on to the finals that year because Andrew Bynum got good, and they traded for Pau Gasol. So could be one of two things for the Rockets.
Yeah, I remember Kobe Bryant said on the radio that he wanted to trade. It wasn't even like through reporters or sources. He came out on the radio and said, I wanted to be traded.
He put his name on it.
And absolutely, they waited him out. And it is a little bit of a battle of wills because James has 2 years left on his deal. And there is a point, Fizz, I think, where the coaching staff and the front office can say, we don't care. You need to be out on the court and play. And remember, if NBA players, quote, sit out, it's not like the NFL. NFL players can sit out and their contract year continues, even if they're not getting paid. With the NBA, if you don't report, your contract year does not start. So those 2 years he has left on his deal with the Rockets, if James would say, and he's obviously not going to do this, but just to explain the difference, if James's strategy was somehow, well, I'll just sit out this season, he would come back the next season and still have 2 more years left on his deal. Inside the franchise, what are the discussions, Fizz, that as a coach you're having with the front office back and forth about how to handle it and what to say to the other players?
Well, I think it first starts with sitting down with James and saying, okay, how do you want this to play out? And, you know, yes, we are actively shopping to trade you, but until we can, we all have to be pros and do our job. And you would expect and you would want to encourage him to be that type of person that would come out and play until that opportunity came up where a deal could be worked out. It doesn't look good for anybody if James doesn't show up.
Well, I think for Houston, like, you know, for Houston, Fizz, like, to me, the conversation is James going to play nice? Is he going to be, or is he going to be disruptive? If he can settle in with John Wall and they can get off to a decent start, that actually increases Houston's leverage. But if he's disruptive, if the team starts to crater, if this then they're really trading him from a place of duress. And I think that's what the organization has to determine. Now, I personally am in the camp that says he's under contract, he's a great player. You just don't get many chances to trade great players.
Right.
And if you trade James Harden in the wrong deal, your franchise is going to be digging out from under that trade for the next 5 to 6 years. So you wait until you get what you want for James Harden. And you have to tell him, help us help you. I mean, you know, there's a lot of players who've been in this situation. And if you help us help you, then you can get to where you want and we can get something in return for you.
And that's where that professionalism comes in, where you just say, hey, listen, come out, play hard like you always do, perform at a high level. There's an expectation of James Harden when he steps on the court from fans and from everyone in the country around the world. Be that guy and just know that we're really pushing forward to try to help you get to the place that you want to be so we can make sure that everybody wins.
And look, we talk about Kobe Bryant or Jimmy Butler. Every situation is different. And one of the complexities with this situation is that the team that James reportedly wants to go to is not a team that necessarily desperately needs him, right? They've got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So I guess it depends on how much KD and Kyrie say you absolutely, to the front office, have to go get James. But it's not a team that necessarily has to pay a sky-high price because they're desperate for James Harden. He would kind of be a luxury on that team. So that's going to change the leverage and the negotiations here as well. We'll have to see if there's anywhere else James might be interested in going, or this saga could end up for a long time. We'll keep watching Instagram. Who knows? And by the way, Ramona, I'm glad you casually dropped that $100,000 because James Harden apparently gave Lil Baby $100,000 for his birthday, among other gifts, which is amazing. Coming up, we're going to talk about that team that beat the Clippers in the playoffs. You remember them, the Denver Nuggets. We will give our predictions for Jamal Murray and the whole rest of the crew. Can they top last season's conference finals run? First, though, here's our Jump Recommends for today. I spoke with celebrity tattoo artist Mr. Cartoon, who designed the new